Hi, this is Kendall Boyson, professional life and recovery coach, and you're listening to Encouragementology, the practice of instilling hope. Hi there. Thanks for joining me. On this show, we're learning when to listen, when to help, and when to just let it breathe. Have you ever found yourself halfway through someone's story and already mentally rolling out the action plan? They're still explaining how overwhelmed they feel, and you've already drafted 3 possible solutions, ranked by efficiency. Guilty? Yeah, me too. If you're a natural-born fixer, hearing a problem can feel like a challenge to solve, like someone just lobbed a ball your way and you're already mid-pitch with a winning strategy. But here's the thing. Not everyone wants a playbook. Sometimes they just want a bench to sit on, a shoulder to lean on, and someone to nod and say, "That sounds really tough." So how do you know when to jump in and brainstorm and when to just be present? When do you absorb like a sounding board, bounce back ideas like a springboard, or wind up like a pitcher ready to throw? And how do we know if we're solving the real issue or just rearranging the symptoms? This week, we'll explore what it really means to support someone in their moment of need. Let's pull back the lens and see if we can shrink this idea into focus. Maybe the key isn't always to act, but to understand. Maybe the most powerful support we can offer doesn't come from solving, but from seeing. Let's start by identifying the 3 key roles we often shift between in conversation: the fixer, the listener, and the empath. The fixer is action-oriented. They hear a problem and their mind lights up like a control panel. Here's what we'll do, they say, before the other person even takes a breath. Solutions are their love language. Fixers feel useful and accomplished, maybe even heroic, when they swoop in with the answer. Then there's the listener. They know how to zip it and nod. Not just politely, but compassionately. They're not mentally planning their response or looking for the teachable moment. They're present. It's not passive, it's powerful. They give the speaker time to release and reflect. And then we have the empath, someone who not only hears the emotion, but actually absorbs it. They may not offer advice or even many words, but they lean in with their whole being. "I feel this with you," they say, often without ever speaking. Now, most of us don't live squarely in one category. We move fluidly between them, sometimes within the same conversation. And that's where it gets tricky. If you're like me, someone who tends to lead with solutions, you might miss the subtle cues that someone just needs to let it out. They don't want a ladder out of the pit. They want company in it, even if it's just for a moment. And that brings us back to the big idea of this episode: knowing when to listen, when to help, and when to let it breathe. It's a delicate dance, one that requires self-awareness, patience, and trust. Trust that being present is sometimes more healing than being productive. We also have to acknowledge that not every problem is ready to be solved. Sometimes we're only seeing the symptoms, the frustration, the sadness, the fear, but the root, that's still hidden. If we rush in with solutions too quickly, We might be rearranging furniture in a burning house without ever even putting out the fire. So what if, instead of assuming our role, we asked, "What do you need from me right now?" That simple question opens the door to clarity for both people. It invites honesty, it sets boundaries, and it allows support to show up in the most meaningful way. As much as we might feel called to fix, advise, or redirect, we have to ask, is that what's actually helpful? Or is it just what makes us feel helpful? Let's bring in a few voices who have studied this dynamic closely. Brené Brown, researcher, storyteller extraordinaire, says rarely can a response make something better. What makes something better is connection. Now pause on that. Not advice, not a solution, connection. That's what allows people to heal. And connection doesn't come from you doing all the talking. It comes from listening with your whole self, without needing to steer the conversation. Harriet Lerner is a psychologist and author of The Dance of Connection, and she goes even a little further. When we offer help without being asked, we run the risk of taking over and disempowering others. Real empathy listens without rearranging. Oh boy. I need to say that again. Real empathy listens without rearranging. That really strikes me. I think sometimes we want to tidy up someone else's pain, not because we're heartless, but because it's uncomfortable to witness. It's human nature to want to resolve tension. But if we act too soon, we might steal someone's chance to process, grieve, and grow on their own. There's a quote from therapist Nedra Glover-Twab. Helping becomes harmful when it prevents others from learning to help themselves. That one stings a little, doesn't it? But she's right. When we're always the solution, we don't give people a chance to tap into their own resilience. We short-circuit their process. So what's really going on here? Well, helping someone isn't about removing their problem. It's about walking with them through it. Think about the people who've impacted you the most during tough times. Were they the ones who fixed things? Or ones who stayed close when things were messy? And let's be honest, most of us don't remember the brilliant advice someone gave us in the heat of the moment. But we do remember how they made us feel. We remember if we felt rushed or judged, dismissed, or if we felt seen, heard, and safe. The goal isn't to abandon our fixer instincts. They're valuable, thank goodness. But it's about learning to use them at the right time. After someone feels validated, after the emotions have had space to breathe, and when solutions are welcomed, not forced. Let's not forget what Thich Nhat Hanh said. The most precious gift we can offer anyone is our presence. It's not our ideas, our expertise, or even our intentions. It's our presence. And when we show up with patience, compassion, and no need to be the hero, we give people the space to write their own next chapter, with us beside them, not ahead of them. Let's make this real. Think back to the last time someone shared a problem with you. Maybe a friend called upset, or a coworker vented some frustration, or a family member started spiraling out loud. Got it in your mind? Now, Be honest. What was your first reflex? Did you jump into idea mode mid-sentence? Start mentally crafting a solution before they finish their story? Blurt out, "You know what you should do." Wish I had a dime for every time I've said that, huh? If you're nodding yes, welcome to the Fixers Club. We mean well, but sometimes we're so quick to help that we forget to understand. Our instinct to solve can accidentally steamroll someone else's process. Let's try something different. Rewind that moment in your mind, but this time, imagine pausing before reacting. Instead of pitching a solution, you say, "Do you want ideas or just someone to hear you out right now?" That question alone shifts the entire energy. It hands the microphone back to the person speaking. It says, "I respect your process. I trust your wisdom. I'm here in whatever way you need." It's a small move, but it's huge in impact. Because now you're not just assuming the role, you're asking for it. And that builds connection and trust. Here's another quick test. Think of someone in your life who's struggling right now. What do you believe they need? Reassurance? Validation? A quiet presence? A sounding board for brainstorming? If you're not sure, ask, "How can I best support you right now?" That single sentence can prevent so much miscommunication, frustration, and missed opportunity for real connection. Now, let's flip it. What about when you're the one struggling? Can you clearly communicate what you need? That's the other half of this dance. Try practicing phrases like, "I'm not looking for advice. I just need to vent." Would you help me think through some options? Can you just sit with me in this for a minute? The more we practice these gentle boundaries as listeners and sharers, the more we move out of the autofix mode and into mindful support. It's not about getting it perfect. It's about being present, being respectful, and being real. So you're a fixer. Great. That instinct to jump in, to help, to do something, it's not a flaw. It's a strength. But like any strength, it needs to be used with wisdom and timing. Otherwise, it can unintentionally override the very connection you're trying to build. So, let's look at some practical ways to honor that instinct while creating more thoughtful, respectful space for others. Number 1, practice the pause. Before offering advice, give it a beat. Literally, take a breath and let the moment land. If your first instinct is to say, "Here's what you should do," try starting with this. "That sounds really hard. How are you feeling about it right now?" Even just 3 seconds can shift you out of reaction mode and into connection mode. Number 2, ask for the role you're meant to play. One of the best relationship tools I've learned and am still perfecting is simply asking, "Do you want me to listen, help brainstorm, or just be here with you?" This removes the guesswork. It also gives the other person agency. They get to decide what kind of support they need, and you get clarity on how you want to show up. Number 3, zoom out before zooming in. When someone's sharing a problem, it's easy to hyper-focus on the immediate issue. But sometimes what they really need is help seeing the bigger picture. Try visual analogies like, let's rise above this like we're in a hot air balloon. What do you notice from up here? If this problem was one chapter of a book, what do you think the title would be? These visual shifts help reveal patterns, root causes, and emotional weight that might otherwise get buried in the details. Number 4, validate before you solve. Even if you eventually offer a suggestion, make sure validation comes first. Instead of, you just need to, try this. That makes total sense why you'd feel that way. That sounds like it's weighing on you. You've been carrying a lot. When people feel seen and safe, they're more open to new ideas, and they'll actually want your input and not feel ambushed by it. Number 5, be okay with letting it breathe. Not every problem needs to be solved in the moment. Not every emotion needs to be fixed. Sometimes just being with someone in the middle of their mess is the kindest thing you can do. When you feel that itch to act, ask yourself, is this for them or is this for me? If it's for them, check that you've been invited. If it's for you, pause, breathe, and wait for the opening. This episode is all about knowing when to listen, when to help, and when to let it breathe. You don't have to get it right every time. Just keep practicing, keep checking in, keep showing up with curiosity and compassion. The A side of the story is shiny. It's helpful, capable. It says, you have a problem, I can fix it. It feels good to be useful, to be the one with the roadmap, the resources, the right words. And for those of us wired that way, it's often where we feel most valuable. But the B side, that's where the deeper track lives. On the B side, helping looks quieter, softer, less visible. The B side says, you're not broken. You're human, and I can be here while you figure it out. It's not a popular mindset in a world obsessed with productivity and problem solving. We love the hero moment, the I swooped in and saved the day story. But sometimes the most healing thing you can do is not flashy. Just stay. You don't get a standing ovation for holding space. You don't get praise for resisting the urge to solve. But in the stillness, in the pause, something sacred happens. Trust is built. Pain is honored. And the other person gets the chance to reconnect with their own strength. The B side requires humility. You have to let go of being the one who knows. You have to be okay with silence. With not being the center of the story. And sometimes that's harder than just handing over a to-do list. But here's the magic. When people feel seen and safe, they start solving their own problems. They come to their own conclusions. And you, by just being a calm presence, become part of their healing without ever needing to be the hero. Here's something to sit with. What if your presence is more powerful than your performance? Let me say that again. What if your presence is more powerful than your performance? The B side knows that just because we can fix something doesn't mean we always should. That sometimes letting it breathe is the bravest choice. So next time you find yourself mid-sentence ready to pitch an idea, try flipping the record. Lean into the pause. Sit in the stillness. Listen for what's not being said. Because the A side might be catchy, but the B side, that's where the truth lives. I want to tell you a story. The echo in the canyon. I think this will help us see it maybe a little differently. There once was a woman who lived near the edge of a vast canyon. She had a gift for hearing things others missed. Subtle shifts in the wind, birds returning before the season turned, even the way silence changed when someone was hurting. People from nearby villages would climb the trail to her small cabin, not for her advice, but for the space she held. They would sit beside her and pour out their hearts, grief, worry, uncertainty, and she would simply listen. One day, a man climbed up, exhausted. "I've lost my job. My wife and I are barely speaking. I don't know what to do," he said. She offered him tea. He declined. "I need answers," he pressed. "What should I do next?" She didn't reply. She just pointed toward the canyon. Speak your worries into the air. Let the canyon echo back what you need. He looked confused, but humored her. "I'm lost," he shouted. His voice echoed back, "Lost, lost, lost." Frustrated, he turned to her. "That's not helpful. I already know I'm lost." She smiled gently. "Try again." This time he softened. "What am I afraid of?" The canyon returned. "Afraid, aid, aid." He blinked. Something shifted. The word he heard wasn't fear, it was aid. So he tried again and again. Each time he spoke, the canyon gave back a piece of clarity. Not because it knew the answers, but because it gave space for him to listen to himself. He sat for a long time after that, quiet, still. Finally, he turned to the woman and said, "You didn't give me advice, but somehow I feel more certain than I have in weeks." She nodded. The canyon doesn't fix, it reflects. That's all most people need. The moral? Sometimes people don't need us to fill their silence. They need us to make room for it, to be the echo that helps them hear their own truth. Now, let's slow it down and explore the balance between helping and holding. Whether you're someone who jumps into action, prefers to hold space, or tries to do both, self-awareness is key. These journaling prompts are here to help you get curious about your instincts, your boundaries, and your need to feel helpful. So, grab your journal, take a breath, just listen, and let's explore. One, what What role do I naturally step into when someone shares a struggle with me? Do I see myself as a fixer, a listener, or an empath? And why? When did I first learn that helping meant offering solutions? How do I feel when I can't solve something for someone? 2. How comfortable am I with just holding space? Do I find silence awkward or powerful? What emotions come up when I can't offer immediate advice? Have I ever witnessed someone feel better simply because I was present? 3. When have I confused symptoms for the root cause in others or myself? What patterns do I notice when I try to fix a situation quickly? Have I ever solved the surface problem but still felt unsettled? How can I learn to pause and look deeper before responding? 4. How clearly do I communicate my needs when I'm the one struggling? Do I ask for support or hope others will figure it out? What would it look like to say, I just need you to listen? How might that empower both me and the person supporting me? Remember, there's no right answer here, only deeper understanding. You're not trying to correct anything, just connect with what's true for you. And remember, you can go deeper in your journaling and really walk through this to understand more about yourself and others with the 5-day journaling companion in the show notes. So what are we really walking away with? Well, we learned being a fixer isn't a flaw. Thank goodness. It's often an act of love. But knowing when to fix, when to listen, and when to let it breathe, well, that's wisdom. And that's what this episode has been about. Sometimes the most helpful thing you can do isn't offering solutions. It's simply offering yourself, your calm, your patience, your presence. We explored the idea that jumping into action too quickly might mean we're solving the visible symptoms without ever getting to the root. That the real magic happens when we pause, ask for permission, and truly tune in. We've seen that connection, not correction, is what heals. And we've discovered that the quieter path, that B side of support, might just be the most powerful one of all. If you want to share encouragementology with a friend who needs to know they're not alone in this journey of self-discovery, you can visit encouragementology.com or anywhere you stream your content to receive this episode and all others. Check out the show notes for the 5-day journaling companion and follow us on Facebook and Instagram for additional encouragement throughout the week. So I challenge you. When someone shares something heavy or hard with you, resist the reflex to fix it. Instead, pause and ask, do you want ideas or do you just need me to listen? Give space, offer presence. Trust that just being there might actually be what they need. I know you can do it. Thank you for listening to Encouragementology with Kendall Boyson, where we find positive ways to handle some of life's challenges.
I stumble through